streaming live on YouTube as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, you are streaming live?
Yes.
just not on the cable access channel.
Right.
No, the NCAP.
Oh, good. Okay.
And you're all set to start when you're ready.
Okay. So I'm going to call the Town of Northborough Board of Health meeting to order at 6:05 PM. The first item on the agenda is tobacco compliance check.
So we'll do that.
Thank you all. I'll try to be brief. But we only do inspections once a year, so. as I'm
Michael,
sure-
would you mind doing a quick intro? Because not everybody might,
Mine?
on watching camera. Yeah, just your.
I'm Michael
your-
Singer, the health agent
Thank you.
for Town of Northborough. As you're probably familiar, the Massachusetts Health Officers Association has a grant through the state to perform tobacco inspections. They contract out employees, or people, excuse me, to do the inspections. So I believe it was on September 20th meeting, this board agreed to appoint Kevin Duquette as our representative for the MHOA. So I had the pleasure of going out with him on inspections on Friday, March 3rd. We have 15 tobacco holders, to permit holders in the town, and 14 of them had violations. Most weren't major. Once the flavor ban went through, and I believe it was towards the end of 2020, letters went out to all the establishments in January of 2021 telling them of the requirements. That they need to have letters from all the manufacturers of all their products that say they're not flavored. So those need to be on site in every establishment that sells tobacco from every manufacturer. So Cumberland Farms that has 35 different manufacturers, they need to have 35 different letters for all of their products. So 13 establishments out of 14 didn't have any of those letters. There was an ignorance there, none of them knew what we were talking about. 2 of them did, so that was BJ's and Cumberland Farms, major corporations that had all the access to them. If you're familiar, there's a whole bunch of signage that's required in every tobacco establishment, about under 21, cigars, and so forth and so on. 12 establishments were missing at least one sign. But Kevin, Mr. Duquette, had signs with him, so he gave them all to them and explained where they need to go and so forth. So those were provided, and we did not see them hang them up, but they were provided. There were 2 establishments that didn't have their humidors, obviously those little cases that hold cigars. Those are supposed to be locked at all times. Bacon's Wine and Spirits and Richdale convenience stores were both unlocked. They weren't wide open to the public, but they were not locked. There were 2 establishments, Northborough Center Mobile and Richdale, that we identified a possible flavored tobacco sale. Prior to the ban, it would say mango, it would say grape, and it could smell very obvious what they were. I found 2 products that, as the experienced inspector, hadn't seen before. When he smelled them, he couldn't quite tell. Since they didn't have their supporting letters saying that there was no, he decided to pull them off the shelf as a potential flavored sale. During this inspection, we didn't do any of the under 21 sales. That's separate from, it's a whole separate visit to what I said, the stings and so forth. So overall, it looked pretty good. They weren't doing anything malicious. They didn't think they had flavored products. They weren't trying to be sneaky about anything. So I dropped off warning letters to each of the establishments. And it's sort of one of the reasons we're bringing it up now is to decide if we want to follow any fine structure moving forward if they don't fix the violations. Per the state requirements, there's a $1,000 fine for each violation. They provided some recommendations to us that they suggested do not fine anybody with the letters and worry about an educational piece and work with them on those from the manufacturer standpoint. But in terms of the potential flavored sale and the locked humidors will be $1,000 fine each.
But all these things are behind the counter, right? Even the humidors.
The humidors are available so the counter would say end here and the humidors right there. So someone could access it. If you look at the Northborough tobacco regulations, we require a $100 fine per violation. So Dr. Kristen and I were wondering what to do moving forward now. As I said, I've dropped off the official warnings. These are the findings from the inspector, and I'll be back in 7 days to check things out. So curious what everyone's thoughts are of what I do when I go back.
A couple of questions.
Yes.
Routinely, how many inspections are done?
We're required to do 1 per year. Per pretty much our discretion, we can go other times, but 1's required.
So 1 is required.
And then following up on any.
Right, that's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
on the violation,
Yeah.
so that's there. Does the warning letter have the fines in there?
It does.
It does, okay.
It has the state fines in there
Okay.
because it was a state detailed letter. I mean, yeah.
And the other question, this is not the same as a sting operation, right?
Yeah, no underage.
Okay, so this is totally separate from the, because this is announced, they know you're coming in.
Nope.
Unannounced compliance check.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it was an unannounced compliance.
so these are unannounced.
Yeah.
And the sting operations are also unannounced.
Certainly.
They just go in there, look like they're 15 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. With the heavy beard growth.
They find the good kids. So,
Are you looking for,
I'm not sure, so I would prefer to follow the state recommendations, at least on the letters, to not find them on that as an educational warning. I don't know what to suggest about the fines.
So I did, we went back through, so we have our local tobacco regulation, which has much lesser fees, so closer to like
It's
$100.
$100.
And so it was interesting is where, let me just take a step back on tobacco control and compliance check. So, you know, we have our 15 retailers, the local board of health is an arm, sort of just like alcohol, where like the state can also go in and in this case, there's also federal compliance checks on tobacco. And so in Northborough, for years, we haven't belonged to a tobacco control collaborative. So you may remember belonging to the Worcester
yep,
Tobacco Control Group. And then that group folded in some of those towns. For some reason, Northborough didn't. This was like maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, joined the Leominster, a new tobacco compliance group that would sort of handle all this on behalf of the Board of Health. In Northborough, we've sort of been without a collaborative. We did just, last month, I worked with Framingham to try to join their Metro West Collaborative. The state reopened these regional groups to join. However, you know, we're waiting to hear if that's going to come. So we have our Greater Boroughs region. Boylston is like us. They never rejoined. They were a former member of Worcester. Westboro did join. They're part of Leominster. And then Southborough is part of the Metro West Collaborative. So it's wild how this sort of unfolded. So this is where MHOA does have this grant, and they can provide towns like ours that aren't part of our collaborative some contracted, you know, compliance checks. So it's a little messy because when we start asking questions, well, should we find them? And and they're like, they just throw it back at us. Like, obviously they recommend the higher state fine, which would discourage or, you know, would be more likely to encourage compliance. So I did check with our town council. So I'm not, you know, we are a town with non-criminal disposition, and the fines and fees are clearly outlined. According to John Cordier, the town of Northborough is only allowed to fine up to $300 under that. So I think we need to, if we want to be able to fine the full $1,000 in the state, I believe we'll have to take some steps with the assistance of town council. So the board may have to formally adopt the state. I'm not sure, but according to John, if we just follow our non-criminal disposition, we're limited at 3. So I need to clarify with council what we're even able to do in the town of Northborough.
when's the last time we had a fine?
You found one from Casey?
I found like
Nevitt.
an actual, you know, a 3-part thing that Casey had used to hand out for a violation in 2019.
Carbon copy. We
Carbon
do have a
copy.
little
4
ticket
years,
book.
so 4 years ago, right?
Right.
The only one we have any proof of, yes.
But was it like to that extent, 13 or 15 establishments?
It was just one
One,
thing I
right,
found
because this
online.
seems-
Right after the ban happened, Diane had found Honey Farms, and they fined them $100 too.
Oh,
The Honey Farms downtown, which is now in Ridgedale? Or the other Honey
The
Farms?
family farms now,
The one that's on the other side.
which is still family farms, yes.
So I think we definitely can do our local fines. You know, that would be my recommendation in the time being, but I do have an email I'm drafting. I just finally was able to connect with John just before this meeting. And I did send an email over a month ago saying, can council give us an answer? And it's that busy town warrant time of year where we're not getting great response because everyone's setting a budget. So we'll try to get clarification. My recommendation at a minimum, if Michael were to go back, we can definitely find within our structure legally. And then I would say if we can get approval or figure out next steps, definitely for repeat violation or failure to make those corrections, we can look at the fine. But it's interesting to hear from the board if you knew of any history or, you know.
Well, that's what I said, I mean, if we haven't gotten anywhere for 4 years, it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it's an issue,
Mhm.
right?
and it's 13 of them, so I think
Or
we can.
Oh, 13 with violations?
If you choose to find the letters, it would be 13 total.
Yep.
13 or 14, I think you
The
said.
300
The
and then
letters were 14,
do
I'm sorry, you're
you
right,
know,
14.
Letters
random
were 14.
check again,
Yeah.
and if they're violating it again, then go to.
Well, certainly we can either provide warnings right now, or do the minimal $100 fine. But then I can still make sure to go back at least one more time during the year as just an educational visit. Hey, do you remember when I was here before? Do you still have your letters available? Things like that, we can certainly check. I don't believe there's any maliciousness going on.
So, and I guess,
I've heard in other towns.
are we able to, something that's serious, that they're not supposed to be carrying flavored tobacco, but they are, that's to me is a little bit more serious than missing a letter or something they have overlooked. You see what I'm saying?
100%.
So could we differentiate between what we think is more serious
Mhm.
versus carrying flavored tobacco,
Right.
which they know they shouldn't be doing anyways?
The way we had phrased it in the letter was we had written that non-egregious violations were at the discretion of the inspector. So, and we identified a missing letters as non-egregious.
Okay.
So by sort of what we had discussed, to send warning, give warnings for letters and no fines, as long as I have them, hopefully, I'll work with them. And then perhaps the $100 to $300 fines for the 2 humidors and the 2 flavored tobaccos.
And hopefully we'll get some clarity from council as to if the board needs to take any necessary steps or at town meeting, the ability to have the state fines. Because I think we've been fortunate that we've had no complaints of underage sales. But, there could be a time that we do, and I think we want to be able to act in such a way using the state's recommended structure to ensure that we gain compliance.
Agreed.
I mean, I would agree that the town is pretty lucky considering we haven't had a lot of tobacco issues.
Right.
I don't know,
Well,
maybe-
we've just come through COVID, and so many, I don't know where they'd be getting their tobacco, maybe they're, someone
Well,
else is
surrounding
buying
towns,
it.
right?
But
Surrounding
no one's
towns.
really paying attention to that with everything else going on.
That's possible, too.
So it's a good time to take a look.
What we heard a lot recently is the vaping is the bigger problem,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to get online because there's no requirements on age online, and they just use gift cards and so forth. So that's what one of the kids are getting.
It's tough.
Okay. Stay tuned.
Thank
We'll
you.
go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 2, Kumar's Food Establishment.
All right. So just a quick update on them. I was there on the same day. Actually, the tobacco inspections on March 3rd. They have been improving. They weren't as bad as I certainly had read from a year and a half ago when the problems first began. This will be my 3rd standard visit, and things have improved, but there's still some of the same consistent issues. The sanitation was very good, and the temperatures were good. They don't have a buffet anymore, which was the major problem before. So the temperatures and the sanitation are good. They're still having trouble getting their sanitizer out when they're supposed to have it. The buckets for the rags or whatever to wipe. Also, when I was there, their dishwasher had broken, and the 3-bay sink, which is the fail-safe when the dishwasher is broken, wasn't properly set up. So I asked the manager, I hadn't seen him yet. It was someone I hadn't met. They've changed the manager. I asked if he was certified. He said yes. Can you get a certificate? The boss has it. I have the boss's number. I called him. He was in Connecticut. Couldn't get it. This was a Friday afternoon. I said, all right, just give it to me on Monday. So I worked with them to get the 3-bay sink set up. I gathered all the staff together, taught them how to use it, filled the buckets, went over the whole process, and explained to them that I'll be back next week, talk to the operations manager, who I've met on a variety of occasions, and we'll go from there. When I came in on Monday, the certificate he sent me was a food handler certificate from Texas. And I said, that's not what we need. We need a certified protection manager. That's a requirement of the code. So please get somebody here. They pulled somebody from the Connecticut store who's certified. I got a copy of her certificate. And they weren't allowed to open until she got there. So when she got there, they opened up on Monday morning, and we worked together to understand where they need to be moving forward. So given their consistent issues with some fairly major problems, with some fine of some meats and the sanitizer, and if you're familiar with the food code, there's one certified food protection manager is required, and they're required to train the staff and so forth and so on. That just doesn't seem to have been happening. The people in charge tend to know what's going on, but the others haven't. The 2017 food code, which we haven't adopted, requires a certified protection manager on all times. So I would like to suggest to the board here that maybe we consider asking Kumar's to follow that model for the...
Did we not ask them to have a certified person on site at all times?
No, the motion was specific to bring in a third party to do those
I know
inspections
that.
monthly.
Right.
But the motion, as we went back, wasn't specific to on-site, because that was sort of the next. I think what we found, well, the quality of the third-party inspections
Weren't that good.
were not great.
Mhm.
And relying on a third party that doesn't have an incentive, if we were constantly hearing from that third party that I'm gonna get out, you know, and I think the best thing is to invest in your own staff and not another person to come in. And I think it's important to note, and I've talked to Michael on this, that the management is aware of the issue and they are willing to comply and to have multiple staff trained to ensure there's always somebody on site. And so I think that's the solution is always to have a well-qualified staff, and I think that will really get them where they need to go. They've been responsive, but I think where the local board of health, Michael doesn't have time to be checking in constantly, and I think at times they're there, they're going in the right direction, but that recommendation is probably going to ensure safety through the remainder of the year.
Somebody has to be on site all the time to search their certified, so.
So shall we make a motion for that?
Sure.
Feel free to change that.
I move to require Kumar's Restaurant to have a person who is a certified food protection manager on site during all hours of operation. This requirement will go through the end of the current permit cycle, December 31st, 2023. That's in-
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Lisa? Fine. And I say aye too.
Thank you. Time frame to this? I probably should have done that.
Oh, regarding when they need to be compliant?
The new manager and one of the lead chefs have taken the class last week and just waiting certificates. But they're
Okay.
obviously probably not gonna be there 11:30 to 9:30 every day. So
Right.
still need some more.
Do they have the remainder of their staff signed up to take this course? Do you know where they're on
Do
the
not have that
registration?
information.
I mean, these courses, Michael, you know best, are offered, you know, you need to drive, but I think asking that they have their additional staff trained within 30 days is reasonable.
I
You know,
agree.
that they would be able, so I would say within 30 days of,
Okay.
you know, today, so that, yeah,
Fantastic.
okay.
Is 30 days too long?
I think they'll be there. The only thing I just worry is, it's not as though they always offer this course every week in this
Oh,
region.
fair
And so I hate
That's
to
fair.
cause a hardship
enough.
or have them come back.
Fair enough.
I can look for some classes and present them to them.
Okay.
Help with the process
Because it
along.
isn't in person. Well, there are some agencies that do allow for remote, totally, but you have to, not everybody has the technology to do it, because there's certain requirements for the testing.
Proctoring. is a
The
challenge.
proctoring is
Yeah.
not everybody can do it. So, okay.
All right, that's my
Thank you, board.
Does CASA Vallarta have that too? And any
I
updates?
believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe you had required it
Okay.
at Carson Arts, I think. I know that when I went, there was 50 certificates on the wall.
I believe we required that the last time, but they were a frequent flyer.
Yes.
I think we saw them like 3 times in 9 months in here, which says a lot.
Yeah.
We brought in here. So I believe they are required. And unfortunately, the other branches seem to do better for whatever the reason is. Whether it's lack of staff or whatever it is, I don't know what it is here.
Well, I think some of the trouble that I've seen throughout is the more staff you have is where you're gonna have the problems. If you have a place where it's 3 employees and that's it for every day, it's easy to do the right thing. But when you walk into Carson Arts on a Monday afternoon and they have 15 employees, it's certainly gonna be more of a challenge to keep them all on the same page.
Okay. All set with that item? Sounds good.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Next item on our agenda is the Be Well North Road.
Yeah, so, there is some printed materials in your packet, so feel free to take a look over it. I know, I sporadically update the board, so this initiative started, just over a year ago. The Board of Selectmen appropriated $100,000 towards this group. Most recently, in recent months, we have purchased 5 new AEDs that will be located in municipal buildings, and most excitingly, outside at Ellsworth McAfee Park during the non-freezing season, right? The batteries don't work, so the park is closed in the colder months. So those AEDs are on order, and then we've conducted staff CPR AED training, and our nurses provided Narcan training. And so we have a total of 63 town employees that were trained through the library, senior center, police, most of the police and fire, but maybe their administrative staff weren't trained. So we're really proud and excited to have a very well-trained staff. Our AED cabinets have been ordered for the buildings that didn't have them, and we're also going to be doing like a Narcan remarking package. So the health department will maintain Narcan or naloxone in each of those units as well. And so we're hoping this is a good measure for public safety. And while our fire department trained our employees through this grant, they don't have the staff time available to train all of the public. So we're working with a nurse, Heather Welch, who she's been doing CPR AED trainings for a really long time, I think 15 years. And so she's running in-person classes at the library at a reduced cost of $30 per class. The half of it paid by the participant, half paid by the Be Well Northborough, and I think we have like 6 full classes already. So as funds are available, so those courses are going to be running all the way through June at the library. So a lot about health and safety. We're going to do another sort of final hurrah kickoff event. So if any of you attended or are aware of the Be Well kickoff we did last year, we're going to do the same thing on the last day of school, really focused on families and bounce houses and all the fun. But more importantly, that all of our key town departments have tables for giving out free information. And the focus this year is going to be on sun safety. Using our Be Well funds, we're purchasing sunscreen dispensers. There's already been one that's been maintained by Junior Women's Club out at Ellsworth, McAfee Park, but it's getting a little older. It might have been slightly vandalized after 6 years of use, so we're getting new signs. There are bigger signs that are around the sunscreen dispensers, and we're adding 2 over at the splash pad at Assabet Park. So one at the splash pad and one at that beautiful new play structure. So the hardest thing with the communities that have put these, Salem did a really big project with Impact Melanoma. The hardest part is having somebody actually maintain them, wipe them down, they don't get filthy. And most exciting part, Juniors Women's Club has been maintaining the existing one at Ellsworth, and we're excited to partner with the town. And so they'll be maintaining those 4 dispensers, and they check them and wipe them down and do refills. I think they check them daily. They have volunteers that walk those around. So.
Is it something
That's great.
filled with liquid or?
It's almost
individual packets?
No, it's like a pump, so almost like those hand sanitizer ones with just it's a packet that goes inside in a dispenser. So and Impact Melanoma will be providing us a lot of educational tabling materials that we'll be providing at Be Well at the kickoff event and other events and distributing through town departments. We did get approval from the state. We'll also be purchasing some eco-friendly, sort of those carabiner clip sunscreen dispensers. I think our fun free giveaway this year is going to be sunglasses, for the kids that participate. So all about sun safety, partnering with Impact Melanoma this year. So we're excited about that.
We
Love it.
Reliant helping out with the.
No luck, but we're using the Be Well funds. So they're there. ARPA funds are going to pay for those dispensers. Yeah, so we're excited. We're still moving forward. So anyway, there's more activities that we're continuing to do. A lot of it partnered through the library. We provided a list here for members. It's all available on the town's website under the community calendar and advertised. I'm trying to think. It covered most of the other event that we're sort of doing, somewhat related to Be Well Northborough, is a wellness week. This is sort of an idea that came about through our school's wellness committee. And so the idea is we'd be offering a week of wellness, and it's going to be May 1st through 5th. So I don't have copies here, but we did sort of modify that wellness wheel you think of, that, social, emotional, intellectual. We created categories there where people will focus like sleep, just trying, it's going to be targeted at the schools with little freebie giveaways if they fill out the wellness wheel and do different activities. Our senior center director, Kendra's done a great job in modifying it, so it's senior activities that they're really already doing, about getting outside, and you can sign up for a free class with the Audubon Society and the senior center. All of their fitness classes that week will be offered free of charge, so sort of a townwide project, also partnering with Southborough. So the libraries are hosting events, telescope viewing at night, and a whole range. So there'll be the wellness wheel, try to fill it out or do your best, and then a whole list of activities. And the idea is just people will hopefully take a week and maybe try something new. If it's a trail in town, and give people ideas to try to touch on all of those aspects. So more to come, and we'll circulate a lot of that through, social media or the town's news and announcements. So I think that's the update there. We really spent down those Be Well funds. It's been a really exciting opportunity to do some of these activities. We never would have been able to purchase AEDs. They're expensive. The great news on sustainability is our fire department has agreed to take on the contract to maintain these 5 new AEDs. And they're compatible with the fire department equipment. So if they come out and they, need to connect the pads, we're all interchangeable. So I think it's been a great opportunity to really improve that. And, the nurses have been advertising the Narcan training. I think we've trained over 90 individuals at the Northborough Library on Narcan use and distributed, as well as our 63 employees that were part of that process. So a lot of great initiatives. We're very grateful. Our departments, we're going to continue to work together. But a lot of this we're going to try to build into our regular programming. We've learned about some of these successes. The program will continue. Class might increase slightly, but we feel like we've done a good job, but not planning to request any additional funding. Hopefully we can build it. It's been a lot of work, too. Spending money isn't always easy. In coordinating staff trainings, it was fun. But I'm sort of very focused on the next project as well. Get to that.
Question I have for you, so library's fine, DPW is fine, because then you're gonna have trained staff to use it, lawyers. Also, the market, no one's standing there waiting for something to happen, so who's gonna have access to it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if soccer, kids are there playing soccer, one of their parents has an event, who's gonna jump in to do what they need to do?
So that's our reason why we're trying to offer this public CPR training, right? The CPR and AED training. So the goal is a lot of these sports, they may require some of their instructors to be trained. You might have someone, who's a parent who happens to be a medical professional is trained, and obviously the fire department's, on call and, is an AED there. So I'm sure there will be events in which there'll be nobody trained, but there may be events where there will. We're excited here in Northborough. We've had our AED located on the 2nd floor of Town Hall, at the end of the hall by the health department where no one goes. Meanwhile, we run pickleball every day, we run athletics in our gym, and they are not aware that there's an AED 2 floors up. And so we're also relocating. Some of the cost of this program has been purchasing signage for every major entrance of every town building in which there's an AED located. And so our goal is that, the other thing we're doing with some of our grant money, our public health nurse, Erin Coulard, is looking to be trained, so she could be someone to train. Mary Ellen Duggan, one of our school nurses, also trains all of their staff. So we're hopefully, once this funding eases up, looking for more opportunities to have our town staff be able to train the public.
Okay.
The fire department's done Hansel and Gretel, those sort of things. But the good news is these new AEDs are the really smart ones that tell you exactly what to do. The stickers tell you exactly where to put them. The AED we currently have that will be trading in towards this program is not one of those really smart, savvy ones. It was one that was, recycled and done with the fire department, but it's not something that would be good for a bystander to be able to use. So
I think that's where we should be headed, right? It should be literally dummy-proof, right?
Yeah.
So that anyone who can read and
Right.
follow instructions that's clear
they should be able to do
should
it.
be able to use it, right, correctly, so.
Under very tense conditions.
Yeah,
Yes.
even our Narcan, one of the add-ons is a little push button for Narcan. So if it was a suspected overdose, there's the same thing. Like in your panic, you don't have to read, just hit the button, just like the AED would tell you how to administer it.
Where is the ED in the park? Is it by the shack?
It's new. It's not there yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is new. We've
Okay.
never, there's a lot of controversy here.
Where
If
to
we put it
place
there,
it.
will they steal it? But other towns have been successful. We're going to strategically locate it that it's not right next to the road, like pull up and take this. There's not really a high, talk to the police department. It's not a high theft resale black market item. I mean, not to say anything could happen. But our plan is to locate it under the pavilion, because by covering it, it's going to protect the unit, protect the cabinet, the battery. We don't want it in the baking sun. So that's the plan. That's where a lot of people gather. It's sort of equidistant between the athletic fields and the pickleball court, and trying to pick that in-between location. So that's our plan.
And my gut feeling is they probably all have serial numbers that's unique to each this thing that will
Yeah.
probably be registered with the town.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whoever's going to think about doing something malicious.
Yeah.
we'll probably know that too.
Right, so we'll be working closely, DPW is great as always, and they'll be helping us with the installation of the new sunscreen dispensers. And
Perfect.
so the only downside, AEDs are not available, there's a 26-week backlog. So we've ordered them, hopefully that window's shortened, we may, I don't know if we'll probably put empty cabinets to get anybody's hopes up, but those may, be as late as 6 months out in terms of receipt. But we wanted to get the right units, and that's what's compatible, and that was recommended by the fire department.
Good. That's actually a good thing. It's a very good thing. Thank
And
you.
there's also a second page here, with just sort of a review. Joanna Graham, who is one of our outreach coordinators working through the library, provided this Be Well review program, and they really talk about all the programs we've funded through the various departments and what we've accomplished. So it's great. I think we learned a lot as a town about programming. We learned a lot about how to work together and how to cross-promote events. We also learned that sometimes if you make something totally free, nobody shows up, and a yoga class with one person is a little awkward. So learning, have some skin in the game, offer programming maybe with a small cost of $5 to $10, and but it's I think it was a process of a lot of work, but I think we'll be able to do better programming in the town moving forward because of the opportunities that were presented as a result of this funding.
No, I think
That's
it's very
terrific.
good. Very nicely used too. A lot of stuff. Excellent. Any questions, guys? Lisa, any questions?
No.
No? Okay, super. Next item is Encompass, Northborough Southborough Substance Use Prevention Coalition.
So I can't remember how much we've touched on this. So we do have a little sheet. So I just printed our website. We sort of have a holding page here on the town's website. So I did create a tiny URL. So it's tinyurl.com/Encompass Coalition. So just this website provides a little bit of a background. This group formed around 2014, 2015. It was formerly known as the Northborough Southborough Substance Use Prevention Coalition. I hope I got that right. And this group had met, and they've done, you might remember in the past, some hidden in plain sight exhibits through the schools at parent-teacher nights. It was sort of a partnership between Northborough and Southborough Youth and Family Services. And so this group, we were able to secure some funding through generous donation through one of the Southborough's groups, as well as some funding through our Northborough Youth and Family for $7,000 to pay a consultant. Amanda Decker came in, and she specializes in helping these community substance use coalitions really get off the ground, work on policies and procedures, have a mission statement, have some goals, know how to onboard members, how to recruit members. And so it's been a one-year process. We've been meeting with Amanda Decker, and then more recently, the town of Hudson, through their Mass Call 3 grant with the state, provided us some additional funding, and we hired Trendline Analysis, a contractor, who the owner of the company, sort of a cottage industry. She's smaller, does on the side. She's a biostatistician from UMass, and she helped us develop a survey for parents on, what they're seeing with the youth, specifically really targeting middle and high school, but accepting parent responses K through 12. And so this survey just closed on Monday. We had over 150 responses. I think our confidence interval is going to be around 80, but we're waiting on the final go. So as many of you may know, the Metro West Health Foundation funds twice a year adolescent health survey, where they ask middle and high school students of, in the last 30 days, have you used this? Or, those sort of questions. And our goal of the parent survey is really get the parent perspective and say, do you think your child has used in the last 30 days? And, what resources would you like to, help you? So long story short, we're really forging ahead with this group. It's been a great opportunity to work with the Southborough Health Department, Southborough Youth and Family, Northborough Youth and Family, and with the help of these two contractors and funding through Mass Call 3, we held an action planning retreat on March 8th. We had 30 individuals attend, representing everything from local law enforcement to a substance use recovery center in Southborough. An employee came, which was really great. We had youth from the high school to sophomores attended this event and gave some of their perspective. So we were really planning. We had to focus on what two substances does this coalition coalition want to focus on. They decide on alcohol and nicotine, so really thinking about vaping. And we're developing an action plan to try to reduce those over the next year. And, as we get on, we're also applying for a drug-free community grant, which we'll be applying. The application deadline is April 11th. That funding, if we were to get awarded the grant, would provide the coalition with $125,000 a year for 5 years, which would be focused on hiring a substance use prevention coordinator to help us as our towns and the schools work on things to reduce substance use. So it's been a great group of individuals. A lot of work has gone into this. Even if we don't receive the grant, we have Amanda Decker's helped us with our mission statement. We're going to begin actively recruiting members. Probably in like May or June, once we get through some of this and have a more focused goal, and we have an action plan. So when members say, if I become a member, what are we going to do? So that's really the steps we're looking at. So a lot of it's prevention, it's education, taking the results of that parent survey and saying, where are the gaps? Trendline analysis came into this action planning retreat, and I was really, I think Michael was there. We had, our nurses were there. They presented our local youth risk behavior survey results. So from our Northborough, Southborough, the schools were really great in sharing that. And you could see, for example, we all want to focus on this and help our youth be healthy and reduce substance use, but you don't know where to start. And for example, our vaping rates or use of nicotine were 2% in 9th grade, and they jumped to 12% in 10th grade. And so the survey response was very large sample size. So it helps you, with the coalition, we're really data-driven. We follow the strategic prevention framework. So we're going to look at local data, figure out what our local conditions are, and then really target our actions. So that example of jumping from 2% in 9th grade to 12% in 10th grade of vaping in our youth at the high school really makes us, that's an opportunity, right? Like that's where we're seeing, a 6-fold jump in our numbers. And even talking to some of the teens at the retreat, they said, we learned about this in middle school, but people aren't talking about like anti-vaping campaigns, right? That was really a big focus. So we're hopefully going to get more into this type of work in our 2 communities. And our ultimate goal is we're all going to be receiving a lot of opioid settlement funds, and those funds can be used by municipalities to support prevention strategies. And the goal is this coalition would hopefully make recommendations to the town and help to implement some of those strategies.
So this program is going to be probably predominantly during the school year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to be able to get the kids during summer vacation.
Right.
So it's basically 9 months of the year, give or take.
Right. If you're going to run a parent workshop, we were looking at some of that as we're developing the action plan. We're hoping, this is only successful in partnership with the schools, and they've been great. Mary Ellen Duggan's our primary contact. She's been wonderful. So can we do a piggyback presentation on talking with your teen about substance use following their freshman orientation, in August, so how do we do that? So there's very specific action steps, and working with, providing materials to local pediatricians' offices is something we could do. So my goal is, as we get this all cleaned up, we have it, that I'll be recruiting all of you as members. It's not the same, it's a community coalition, it's not a town board or committee. So this group does not follow open meeting law. You're not going to go online and see posted agendas. However, we are on the town's website, that webpage I spoke about, we are collecting email addresses to have a listserv to let people provide their information if they'd like to learn more, consider becoming a member, volunteer in some capacity, or just want to learn about the activities and events we may be holding. So
It might be good to have some middle school and high school students on as members on that board.
So one of us, we were writing the action planning today with Isabella. I was working on this with our epidemiologist. One of our goals in our first year is to form a youth action committee, right? Our goal would be to have one at the middle school and one at the high school, where they would provide input on what, how do we combat social norms of, alcohol or nicotine use, those sort of things. So I was fortunate to sit at the table. We did a lot of working groups and moving around the action planning retreat. I was fortunate enough to sit at least in one round with the teens, and it's so insightful. Like, if we don't pull them into this process and understand what their experience locally, we're not going to be very effective. So
Yes.
that's a rewarding part of these kind of coalitions.
Good.
Looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Perhaps you can have people from that establishments also on that board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these coalitions can try to institute policy change. So that would be an example of, we find an issue with compliance at a tobacco establishment, would the Board of Health, would we come to you and say, we want you to change this policy to ensure that, underage sales aren't occurring, for example. So yeah, it all feeds in. There's 12 sectors. The model we're following under this drug-free community grant is that there's 12 sectors represented, one being business, for example. There's law enforcement, youth, volunteer organizations. So we had like a member of the Southborough Rotary Club present. We had a PTO, or the Southborough PTO president was present at this meeting. So really getting all those key stakeholders involved.
Good.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you for that update. Now we have some town meeting warrant articles. The first one is appropriation of opioid settlement funds.
So, any municipalities that signed on to the distributor and J&J settlement cases have already been awarded some of these settlement funds. So to date, according to our town accountant, the town of Northborough has already received $107,000 under this opioid settlement. This settlement agreement was set by the state, and there's very clear rules into what municipalities can use this for. I mentioned, education or substance use prevention is a possibility, but there's many categories. The town has yet to develop a plan on this, but the money was received as free cash. And so, the way it comes in, the town has to formally appropriate it to a purpose. If we fail to do this, we'd probably get in big trouble, but it's sort of a procedural thing. So, this settlement fund warrant article, I think, was drafted by the Massachusetts Association of Health Board. Cheryl Sabara, put together this draft. It's very simple. There's still going to be steps. There'll be public input to some degree and other processes that will be put in place by the town, but this is really just a placeholder.
Okay.
I've heard some people say, well, what are you going to do with it? It's like, well, the town can use it in accordance with the municipal guidance. But I don't think the town's yet decided that. So we've had a few working group meetings with police and fire and schools to talk about this, but we're still developing that plan. This at town meeting would only make it available following town meeting. So there's not a huge rush, but we are in the process of trying to develop said plans. So I think I did speak to our town administrator right before this meeting and just said, how do you do it here in Northborough? And would it help or hurt? Would you like the Board of Health to vote and support? Some people were, I think if it won't be printed in the warrant book if the board votes, but if anyone had questions about how the board felt about this at town meeting, it is a separate article, it would be voted. It may be helpful to say that the Board of Health was supportive of this article. It's really a housekeeping article to designate it, but overall, I'm happy about how the discussions are taking place in town. All the stakeholders have been involved, and we're taking our time and trying to think through. And I think I'm hearing from town employees that they're open to taking recommendations from the Substance Use Coalition. Our town administrator, I know John is leaving, but he's expressed he's very interested in seeing a lot of this money go towards the schools and prevention, in accordance with the guidelines. So I'm supportive of the Warren article as your town employee, but if the board wanted to make
There's
a
no
motion.
formal motion we have to make, we just,
I would say you could say that the board voted in favor of the article. I mean, it just would put on the books that you're
In favor of
supporting.
In favor of
In
you.
favor.
Okay,
Yes.
so Lisa made that motion?
Very, very formally.
Okay,
That works.
okay.
make a motion for it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I move that the Board of Health support the appropriation of opioid settlement funds for use by the town of Northborough.
Okay, I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Great.
Perfect. Establishment of Health Department revolving fund. A lot of money stuff going on here.
I know. That's how we build up our health department, right? It's sustainable. So you guys had already voted this actual article because we submitted it to the Board of Select, to John's office to incorporate. So I just wanted to update you that this article was published. So the Board of Selectmen, I believe, met sometime in, I'm trying to remember the exact date. They did have a draft warrant they voted recently at a recent Board of Selectmen meeting. And if you were following the Board of Selectmen, they now upload the meeting packets to the website. So there was an error in how it was printed prior to that meeting. So this email from John is the corrected language.
Okay.
And this is I think when it was incorrectly added to the Board of Selectmen draft warrant that some of the public may have seen, it said that the town was appropriating $150,000, and that's not what's happening. The town is establishing a revolving fund with a maximum expenditure in any fiscal year of $150,000. So
Okay.
this article is to establish a revolving account. I just want to clarify that for the record. This is the exact language that the board had previously voted and submitted to the town manager's or town administrator's office, but there was a typo and this was corrected. So we previously voted this article, the Board of Health presented it, and the town administrator is supportive, and it's in the warrant as corrected here. I did hear someone posted something on social media with questions about what the Board of Health would do with this. So again, it's just establishing a fund where we could deposit. So if we ran a flu clinic and we received, medical reimbursements for
Yep.
administering flu vaccine, you put in the account, it becomes a revolving account. This is how Southborough pays for their flu clinic. So it just builds a sustainable model. We are set up now to bill for immunizations through the state's color platform.
Yes.
That wasn't something we had before. So this is sort of our next steps.
And so that money that we collect from something like that color program will
Right.
go into this
Would
revolving
go
fund.
into it, which would let us then buy flu vaccine and so it's written rather generically in line with other towns' revolving funds. So it's to support health department expenditures, that, and it's really related, it's for program fees, that we receive it from medical insurance and program fees. So
Okay.
it's rather generic. You keep it sort of broad. There's a revolving fund like this for youth and family, for our senior center, for our fire department. So this would be one in a table of many other revolving funds. So,
So do we, because this is already,
yep, no need to vote.
we don't have to vote.
I just wanted to update you. That
Okay,
did
that's
appear in the draft. There was a typo that caused some
Okay.
confusion, but it's been
That's fine.
corrected.
That's fine, that's good. Algonquin Regional High School Athletic Complex Project.
So I can just recap. We did I think all of you did, okay, Delete you didn't, but I think we had Teresa attended. Everyone,
The
okay.
Zoom meeting, right?
And that was on January 30th. That was recorded, trying to remember, it was recorded through Southborough. So this was the first ever that I know of, joint meeting with Southborough and Northborough Boards of Health. The schools presented on this project. We did, there were questions. It was great to hear the schools clarify this is not a tire crumb infill that we were sort of unknown leading up to it. It's more of a silica-based or sand-coated infill. Those meeting minutes are actually going to be voted later today, but I believe all of you were forwarded from Keith. It wasn't well formatted. Keith Lavoie at the schools. We did produce a list of questions following that meeting. Just clarifications about maintenance. It's not necessarily in your packet because it was not, I did email that to the board members, but there were some questions. So the schools provided some responses and clarification based on those questions. And so at this point, the warrant article is there. I provided a draft that was in, again, the Board of Selectmen's meeting packet. It does say in the draft that the sum is to be determined. I think there's still some work on the school's end. The warrant's not yet closed or at least finalized in this final form. The Board of Health, just to clarify, we reviewed this project, we asked questions to schools, they did return information. The planning board has their own process they're going through. They did require for some baseline testing at the site to occur, and they're also, I believe, working with a third-party consultant or reviewer to test the materials that they're proposing to put in. So testing the actual foam layer, the layers of product, including the silica and the grass, the artificial grass. And so those results are pending, but the baseline testing at that site did reveal PFAS in the soils, which is not atypical for New England soils. And so, the material they're saying does not include any PFAS. I know that's a concern. The tire crumb is the one you've heard of, that ground up tire did have elevated levels of PFAS. That's not the product they're proposing here. So I don't know if the board needs to take a formal vote, but I just wanted to alert you, it's on the agenda, or it's on the town warrant, and I just wanted a recap from that last meeting, and that, those materials were submitted from Keith. I can quickly cover some of it. Some of the questions was there are some manufacturers' warnings often with these structures where they'll recommend that you would wear shoes on the field and wash your hands after use, for example. And so one of the things we asked at that meeting is that the schools would post any warnings or, manufacturers' warning labels, so the public knows how to use the field safely and protect their health. So the schools were agreeable to working with local boards of health on signage as required. But they did, at that last meeting, for example, the boards of health did, inquire about what other towns are using the same product. Shrewsbury, for example, installed the field with this very same product, this EnviroFill with a RockShox pad is the name brand. So that, again, was in Keith LaVoie's email. I don't know if you had follow-up questions to that or any further discussion. It's going to go to town meeting. It's really a financial thing at town meeting. It's even the planning board was told they can't decide what product they use. They have to approve the zoning, the project, the landscaping, but not necessarily just like they wouldn't if we were to permit a house, say, this is the type of hardwood floor you put in. So there's, obviously they're using products that have some testing. I think the planning board's asking the right questions. I think it's great that they have a third party that's testing those products prior to install, but it's not something that necessarily requires a Board of Health permit or sign off, per se.
But the Southborough board did vote.
They did vote. I inquired actually what that motion said. I don't have that. Their minutes are not posted yet. So I don't know if they just voted in favor of the warrant article, if they voted in favor of the product that was selected. Again, I wouldn't know which way to even advise the board because we don't have clear jurisdiction. Right? We don't get to, it's not like they have to file a permit for this product with us. If there were any concerns with the proposed product, I would most definitely be saying that the board should make a, statement or something like that, but I'm not seeing any flags, at least based off the information they provided. We have other facilities. That baseline PFAS testing is something, again, it's not atypical. It seems like they're following the recommended steps, but you're a Board of Health and you have a lot of power.
Are there any fields like this around here?
Yeah, so Shrewsbury, they're saying
Shrewsbury
Shrewsbury
has it?
has the exact same
Exact same
product
field.
there. Yep.
And then there are few who they have tried to, but it hasn't been as successful.
And, the city of Boston has, not moved forward with any more of those. I know it's a different jurisdiction, if you will. And it's not to bring an opinion, just there are concerns, environmental concerns for the youth and injuries.
Yeah, I think
We don't
Amherst,
have
Sharon.
autonomy with this, so it's really difficult to
A lot of it in Boston too is like the heatscaping, it's the heat, you're losing that, which 100%, but the majority of the fields out there are natural. The argument that we heard presented, I don't want to speak to the schools, is that a grass field can't have such a high use. So I think everybody agrees grass is ideal. The problem is the use at the high school is so high, a grass field couldn't survive it. You can't put 5 hours of playing on your primary field surface. A grass field wouldn't last. And so that's been the school's argument as to why they're looking at an artificial surface, is the need for the higher use rates that would be allowed.
Yeah, but again, these fields, the turf fields are good only for around 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are talking about disposing and putting in another 7.5. Or
Right.
Close to
Financially,
that,
yeah, that is
yes.
something I would think the finance, committee, that would definitely, the financial implications would come up. But that would be outside, the financial part is outside of our jurisdiction.
Right.
However, the safety testing would be something that the board could make a recommendation. The schools, under their contract, do have, and we talked about it at the previous meeting, there is, the manufacturer is required to test the field to make sure that, it's performing appropriately and that a well-maintained field, should provide better protection for the student athletes than, an old field that hasn't been maintained that loses that shock absorption of the.
What was that index? Some bounce, index?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Right,
Oh, what?
somewhere.
There was some index of,
GMAX and HIC testing.
okay.
Yeah, so I did, one of the questions, in the presentation, you showed a document with details on GMAX and HIC testing at our last meeting. I asked them what routine testing is proposed, is testing going to be done by a third party, how often? Can the schools commit to this testing requirement within their operating budget after the 8-year warranty ends? And the response from Keith LaVoy was the bid documents will be published once finalized, because again, it hasn't been bid because they're going to look to appropriate the funds. GMAX and HIT testing will be conducted annually by the turf manufacturer as part of their warranty. The district will continue annual testing for GMAX and HIC ratings after the warranty is completed.
After the
False concussions.
Mhm.
Let's say tennis courts. Tennis courts?
The complex includes all of it, right? And the tennis courts are going to be redone, I believe, in the track. But I
Okay.
think the current concerns over health was really associated with an artificial versus grass field. I think that's what we were hearing from the public.
Okay.
There were some public, comments and questions that were submitted by individuals that we circulated
Okay,
to you. The school also has their own process for soliciting.
yeah. I think the seniors will be voting on it.
Mhm.
They're more concerned if it will impact the graduation day.
Oh no. With the installation.
Yes.
Oh, I can imagine. There's a lot of factors. It's a big project,
Right, it
very
is a
big project.
Can we revisit this and come back to it as we kind of mull over it a little bit in case
Mhm.
there is something we might want to move forward for, future?
Or I was thinking
Provisions or
even talking
supervision.
offline, if that is permitted,
Mhm.
so that we have a unanimous
Yeah.
voice to it, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a single voice.
A single voice, yes. I think I know where it is, what it is, but I think talking offline and,
So,
agreeing to.
yeah. Well, one of the thoughts is, this is about a proposal and the town appropriating money, and then it would go out to bid. And then those contracts would come back, and then the schools would select a vendor, right? Select a contractor and confirm a product to install it, So there will be opportunities along the lines. I don't know, where you'd have definitive information from the manufacturer, and this is the selected product, and this is who's installing it. So, I don't know where the right place is, but there's many steps along the way. This may not get approved at town meeting.
Seems a little
And
premature
when is the town
for
meeting?
info.
It is May. Do you have the date of town meeting? we can find it. It is posted somewhere online. Okay.
Let me see his budget. $7.5 million is not small.
So they're borrowing that money,
Mhm.
24.
April,
Oh, I'm saying May, yeah. April, sorry.
24th, 2000, yep, at 6 p.m.
okay. It's here. It's,
A town meeting is typically, is it at the high school? It's a weekday at the high school. I believe the town meeting, I don't know, your townies, yeah.
It's usually at the high school.
Yeah,
High
it's at the high school.
Okay, yeah.
So also, if you want to look over the email from Keith LaVoy that was sent, if you want further clarification, it seems like some of the things are up in the air because they don't it hasn't gone out to bid. Contractor's not there. So, if you want me to look into anything further, send me an email. I'm happy to have clarification on those items.
So is the town meeting are we going forward with the project, or what does it?
Yeah, that
entail?
article is about, do the voters agree to authorize the regional school district to borrow the amount of money to do the project as proposed?
I see, okay.
So just like any other town, to
Mhm.
agree to borrow for a new library, it's just for the complex.
I think it would be great to come back to some discussions, maybe a little bit offline and then online if it presents the
Yeah.
need.
Yes.
So we could put it on our next meeting if you want.
That would be really great.
Clarification. Okay, and I could by then, hopefully, Southborough will have posted their meeting minutes. So so we could see what that looks like, so. I
Because
guess
we'll be meeting according to the schedule 6 days before the town meeting.
Right. But it would be enough that if a member did want to speak up, you know, to make a statement.
Yep.
I mean, obviously you could speak up as a voter, but yeah, our tentative meeting date's April 18th. So if there's anything that you want clarifying
We
information.
can send that to you and
Mhm.
get the information. Okay, fair enough. All right.
And I don't think we can approve the meeting minutes, right? Because both Glenn and
No, we
Once
can't
we
touch
have-
the
uh,
meeting.
Teresa
We
are
can't-
not
we
here,
can't do
so
that.
Right,
we
as
don't
long
do
as
that.
if we had a quorum of any of those minutes, we could.
We don't.
And
we-
yeah, and
We
you
only have
weren't,
two.
yeah.
Only 2 out of
there,
5
yeah.
are here. and
Okay,
we can't.
nope, we can't. We'll have to skip over that.
Okay, so
But
number
we-
7, skip over any other business to come before us? No?
We'll save this.
Yeah, at least it's done. Well, a big welcome, Annie. This is
Yes.
Annie Bassett.
Annie.
Annie's our new administrative assistant to the Northborough Health Department and Building Department. And how long have you been here? How many weeks, Annie?
Millions. I think it's three, 4 weeks this week.
Mhm.
Yeah. Time flies. Time flies when you have fun.
So we're really
Well,
excited. And
welcome aboard.
Angie especially, who was, well over a month, was single-handedly handling the office with renewals, and Michael's helped surviving that season. And so it's, anyway, it's, we're really grateful to be fully staffed, and Annie's an
Don't know
awesome
how she did it,
addition.
'cause
Yeah.
Even with us, it's like crazy.
Yeah.
But
So I don't know.
threw her to the fire. She's doing great.
But it's just not Board of Health, right? They also work with the building
Building,
department?
yeah, they're the way the position's always been set up, they're cross-trained between
Cross-trained
the two
between the 2
departments.
departments.
I think we're sort of saying Annie's good, I guess they're doing dueling meeting minutes right now, and we're gonna see who better performs, and you'll see one face at the next meeting.
Right.
But just as a heads up, yeah, we were lucky, we stole Annie from Northbridge, so she has lots of customer service experience coming from their DPW for very many years. So she's a loyal municipal employee, customer service is her thing. She's a talented artist, we've sent her bio out. Anyway, we're really excited to be fully staffed, and so you might be seeing correspondence, you know, from Annie, and, yeah.
That's good, great.
I'm excited to look at. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
She keeps coming back, so that's good.
That's a very good thing.
So,
So the tentative future date is the 18th of April.
mhm.
If no further business, then I guess we can make a motion to adjourn.
Wellness, what's your thought on availability? With the Algonquin, would you rather meet a week early? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm trying, yeah, I'm looking at the,
I know we had
sorry.
moved to the third
Right.
Tuesday for you. Is that
Ye-
still preferred?
Our meetings, with the COVID being now not as prevalent, are not twice a month. So the second, we met second Tuesday.
That was our usual,
Yes,
right?
we could go back to that.
Okay.
That's totally
The
fine.
other thing about remote meetings, we are currently like pending and waiting to figure out if remote meetings are allowed moving forward. There's a bill, and it's sort of all of the
Mhm.
COVID, that script I read all expired, you know, daylighted at the end of March. So
Okay.
everyone's anticipating it will be extended, but I think for the purpose of, in the event planning board were to go back to in person, this room would no longer be available, right? So right
On
now
the
they're
third
meeting
Tuesday.
on the third Tuesday.
The
Okay.
second Tuesday
Okay.
will be
Our
available.
second
Sec-
Tuesday
yeah.
is probably a safer,
Yeah,
like, because that's historically been the Northborough Board of
Right.
Health.
So that is the 11th,
Mhm.
So it'll be moved to the 11th then instead of the 18th for next month.
18th.
Okay, fair
And then the town meeting is on the 24th.
Fourth.
Mhm.
Less than 2 weeks.
And any preference for in-person via or Zoom?
I think in
person
person
is
is
fine.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially for the next one.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Barring any other pandemic coming through.
Say that.
So, all right. So if you need anything before then, you know, to prepare for that or questions from the schools, Keith, you can either reach out directly from Keith Lavoy. If you want to copy me, if there are questions in response, whatever's easiest.
Okay.
We'll just avoid deliberating an email. So it might be
Yeah.
easier to send questions to me and I'll forward it along.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
Thank you. Make a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second it. All in favor? Yep.
Yes,
Adjourn.
and Glenn.
See you on the 11th.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.